Hey, I'm Max and welcome to my RPG game Devlog. In this video I will be making the enemy's death, adding a little bit of feedback to the player when you get damaged, giving the player XP for defeating creatures that make him level up and gain some power, and I will be creating the items and inventory system so I can pick up some items and equip them if they are armor or weapons. First, I wanted the enemies to actually die when you bring their HP to 0, so I made a quick death animation. And I made this animation play whenever their HP drop too low, but I also need to make them stop moving and attacking while they're dead. So I made them stop everything when they're dead, but you also shouldn't be able to attack a dead mob. Now it's looking good. Then I made it so when the player gets low on health, a red flashing effect appears on the screen so the player knows to be careful or run away. I also made the player's health bar flash in red quickly when he is damaged, so the player can quickly and easily notice if they have been hit. Next, I started working on adding the XP to the player when defeating a creature and leveling up the player once you reach a certain amount. That could have been easy, but I wanted to do the logic in C++ and use that in blueprints since it was mostly math, so I thought it would speed it up a lot by coding it in C++. But since I decided to do it in C++, it actually took a lot longer than it would have been in Blueprint, and it was a lot more complicated, but if it speeds it up a lot, then I guess it's worth. The way I set up the XP for now is that every mob gives 10 XP per level it has, so a level 1 mob gives 10, a level 2 gives 20, etc. And I might add a little randomness to it later. The player needs more and more XP to level up each time, so let's say to level 1 to level 2 it takes 1 mob, so 10 XP, and then level 2 takes 42 XP, so that would be like 4 or 5 level 1s, or maybe 3 level 2s or something like that. This way each level is longer than the previous. This way at the start of the game you'll unlock a lot of new things, and later in the game it will be slower. I added a little XP bar to show the progress of your current level and added the levels of the player and the target in the UI next to the name. Then I started working on the inventory. I followed the tutorial for the backend stuff because, you know, work smart, not hard. If someone already made a tutorial on how to do it, I won't spend hours trying to figure out all the logic behind it. I'll just copy that and then transform it into whatever I want. So at the end of this tutorial, I already had a basic inventory and items that I could pick up and a container that I could loot. I can also use the items, but they won't do anything yet. So the next logical thing to do was to make the armor actually equip on the player when you use it. But of course I started something completely different instead. I started working on the menu that shows the player's armor and look, even though we cannot equip armor yet. Yeah, I'm not sure why I did that. To display the player with its armor, I used the same thing as I did for the player icon in the top left. It's simply a copy of the player, but without the animations playing, captured from a camera and rendered onto the UI. Since it's a copy of the player and not the actual player, that means everything I equip on the player I need to equip on this copy as well. Once I had my player menu set up and showing my player's armor, I had to make it so I can equip different armor and have it change on the player mesh, on a display mesh, and also appear in the little boxes for my equipped items. I made it so when you right click an armor piece in your inventory, it equips it on you, so that works fine. But then I was faced with a problem that I face every day in real life. When I equip a new armor and I already have an old one equipped, it replaces it and the old one just vanishes. I think it's a similar thing that happens to like the socks and the washer, you always find one but lose the other. Anyway, I fixed that by adding back the old item to your inventory once you replace it. After finishing the inventory, I decided to stop doing everything inside an ugly gray box because it makes everything look bad. I don't really want to make my map yet because I'm waiting for Unreal Engine 5 to do it because it has new features that improve the map making and the performance of the map. So instead I did a simple grass square with some rock mountains. It's still not very pretty, but it's much better than a gray box. Finally, I decided to make the zombies have a chance to drop a leather hat just to test the item drop system, and it worked perfectly. The next step will probably be to add more enemies that drop things like meat, hair, teeth, and all that stuff. And also add an NPC that you can talk to sell things and buy things. This way when you defeat enemies, they will give you items that you can sell for gold, and then you can use the gold to buy whatever you need. I think this makes a lot more sense than what some games are doing, like World of Warcraft, when you kill, let's say, a bird and it drops gold in like a bow. Like, how does a bird have gold in a bow? I'm not sure how that works. So instead, I'd much rather the bird, let's say, drop feathers and then you sell those feathers and then buy a bow or whatever you need. This makes a lot more sense. I think the game is getting really close to being playable. If you end up liking this video and want to see more, you can check out my other videos and subscribe for the future ones.